What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Creative Director Studio. Remember, Creative Director Studio is the place to stay inspired and stay motivated to take your career to the next level.
That's right, Corey. And today we're really excited to share with you the second part of a two-part conversation that you and I recently had, all about collaboration and why collaboration is essential to our creative careers and the creative process. Today's part of the conversation is focusing on tactics and ways that you can actually build collaboration into your process, whether you're an independent designer or you're working with other people in an agency. And also, we're talking about how to give and receive feedback as part of that collaboration process. So, we're covering a lot in today's conversation.
So collaboration is one of those things that will really help you take your career to the next level. But if you missed that, if you didn't catch the first one, make sure you go ahead and watch that one first. This next one is packed. It's a lot of great stuff for you to think about. And I don't want you to miss any of our content. So like, subscribe, and share because we have a lot of great conversations ahead.
One thing, though, that I'm thinking of that I've struggled with to some degree in the past, but I've talked to other creatives and designers that struggle with this, which is, when to show something to someone, especially if you work in a job and you are working either with other creatives or you're working with people that you're scared might tear your idea apart because they don't understand. What do you do with that? So I know at times I've struggled to not show something early enough because I'm still kind of spinning on it. I'm not sure. And then I don't know about you, I'll speak for myself. Every time I've then shown that to whomever it would be, I realized it was too late, right? So the feedback's useful, but I think I could have done it 2 hours ago because what I got, feedback I got really helped shape it or diffuse something I was really worried about. So for example, if you're trying something new, you're trying a new color palette, you're playing with typography that you're not sure about, get someone's feedback on that early because then are you onto something or is it really not great? Or maybe you're scared to show it because you think it's too far out and it's actually the best solution possible. So does that resonate, Corey? Have you felt that before? That's certainly my experience.
All the
Yeah.
time. I feel like every designer goes through that same exact feeling. It's a very nerve-wracking feeling to share premature ideas, I call them. There's a point in your design process where it's so high concept that even you don't even know what's on the page. Like that's the thing. You have to go through
Yeah.
that exploration phase where things don't make sense and they shouldn't make sense. They should be inspired. They should be really fun. You should be having so much fun at the beginning of your projects at the concept phase where you're just playing. That you want to get to that state of play. Now, it's very risky to bring somebody in on that premature stage. So what you have to do is you have to start to curate. We talked about curating inspiration in a past conversation, but this idea of curating what you want to show for feedback um, of what you have. And so you got to start thinking about, well, what am I designing? Who is it for? And start to gather the things that are getting close. And those are the things that you want to share. But again, remember, you're sharing things, but you're giving them you're building it up. You're sort of setting the stage for what it is that you're designing, what kind of feedback you need. And so, sometimes sharing things without any context, that's good. You're opening yourself up for a slew of different comments that may be good or bad, and maybe you want that. But what I like to do is say, hey, this is what I'm working on. It's for X client. This is if I'm not trying to get that gut reaction. If I'm trying to get some sort of more shaped and guided feedback, I'll say, hey, I'm doing this for XYZ, trying to achieve this, could use your feedback on XYZ. But I do feel that every time, even if I set it up properly, I know that somebody's going to say something that's going to make me like, ah. But you know what? The one thing I realized is a lot of times you'll get some feedback that you initially process as negative feedback, but when you really peel back the onion, it's actually really good feedback. You're like, okay,
Mhm.
they have a point. And that's what you want. That's the moment when you get that feedback. That's where you start to turn and you start to objectively look at your work and say, "Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you mean." And then I feel like every time it's made my work better. As much as I hated it in the moment, it was like, they were right. What it is you're really mad that you didn't see it. And that's and that's the biggest thing. Is like you're mad that you didn't catch the thing that somebody else caught, and maybe they're not even a designer. They'd be like, "Hey, you spelled that thing wrong, or your letters are too tight together." They don't even know it's called kerning. They're like, "Your letters are a little too bunched." So that's funny. I find it funny, but like, yeah, just rip the band-aid off and share it anyways, and don't worry about if that feedback is scary or negative. It's always going to make you better.
Yeah, exactly. And I can speak more recently to some of the things we've worked on together where I'll just use a logo, for example. I know that
Yeah.
we started sharing things really early. I know for me, doing type exploration. So that's something where we're often sharing that around before we're even doing any cosmetic changes to the typography, like in a logo that requires strong type, maybe
Hmm.
one that's just type only. That's been really beneficial and is not something that I have normally done. So I think that's really helpful to see. Are we feeling this general look? And if so, then we'll continue to work that. And I think that's something that felt a little uncomfortable in the beginning, but it's a great move because then I think
Yeah.
we have been able to collaborate on that. Now that scenario that I just described is where we're sharing that among creative people and designers specifically,
Yeah.
brand designers. So it's shared with through that lens. Though I do believe there could be a way to show that to people that are outside of that creative network, just with a little more polish, right? Maybe you don't send them 50 typefaces and say, what do you think? But it could be that you narrow them down to 10 or 5 and say, which of these do you like? And I think that could be really great to gauge that because, like I said earlier, who wants to spend hours
Yeah.
dealing with spacing and finessing the curves and the corners if the core typeface doesn't work, right? The same thing with color
Exactly.
palettes, right? If we're not feeling the color palette out of the gate, then why start designing a bunch of things in that color palette? Now that being said, as I'm hearing myself say this, I know a lot of designers out there, designer friends, this is not how you work. I know a lot of people really want to play with that idea to get it to a point where it feels like it has enough to work from. And I'm curious, Corey, I'll share a thought in, but I feel like maybe we could share some observations, at least from our experience, for those people. Because I
Yeah.
think the counter to that is if you spend too long ruminating, then you're not really collaborating at all. And you're probably sinking a lot of time in a project where you
Yeah.
could move more rapidly. So, one initial thought that I have done is if I'm working an idea and I'm the first person originating that concept, what I like to do is kind of set some milestones so that I'm sharing it out at just the first possible time that I feel comfortable with it. So an example of that might be, if I'm playing with a bunch of colors and I'm putting them down, I might put them into one thing very quickly. So for example, I might style the typeface using that color. Or if I have a mock layout, I might spend enough time to just quickly create a mock layout. Let's say we're creating branding. So maybe grab one of the mock-ups off of a website and put the colors onto the background of a shirt, right? Or on the background of a mug, or put it onto a flyer, for example. Just something really quick so you can start to vet the color balance yourself, but don't spend 2 days getting
No.
15 pieces done before anyone's seen the color palette. That's the message I'm telling myself and I'm telling you. So I just try to create that, get enough proof of concept and then share it there. So that way I'm spending maybe 45 minutes, 30 minutes instead of all day on that. Corey, any thoughts on that? Does that
Yeah.
resonate? And how have you kind of overcome that balance between spending too long, and then not sharing it too early as well?
Yeah. So what that really is as designers, we're battling that inner perfectionist mentality. And this is something that
Yes.
we could talk all day about. It's this idea of perfection that really is your blocker. And you want everything you do, every space, every color choice to be perfect. And then no, you'll basically nitpick the idea to a point where when you look up, it's you spent like 6 hours and you're like, what did I do? And really it was just you finessing the smallest minutia. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
problem because really you're not really efficiently, you're not approaching the work efficiently, but really you're adding no value to that product because there's no inputs, there's no collaboration. It's just you're in your head and you want it to be perfect. And the reality is that might be an idea that should be on the chopping block. So that's where the tension comes when sharing feedback. Because a lot of times that I've noticed that designers who share feedback with me, who the ones who take it really personal, it's because they know they've just exhausted 8 hours nitpicking spacing only for somebody to say, "Hey, that's not really working. It doesn't really feel like it fits the brand you're working on." And then it's that crushing, sinking feeling. You're like,
Yeah.
And you know it in your heart that you've spent too much time on that thing. And so I just want to strengthen my work. I want to make the best thing possible, and I know that I can't do that all by myself. You have to admit that to yourself. You can't create the best thing by yourself. Nobody can. I mean, every one of us are good designers. We're seasoned designers. Any experienced designer can create a very good product, but the best products come from inputs and collaboration. The most important thing about feedback when soliciting feedback and collaboration is to communicate to the person reviewing what you want out of that feedback. What are you looking for feedback on? Sort of guide it in a way. You can get those reactions, but be very thoughtful about where you are in the design piece. Sometimes we're at the very beginning, and that's okay. But sometimes we're close to finished, and then the feedback about certain things might not be as helpful. So guide it. Be very thoughtful about what you need to get to the next level or where you're stuck. A lot of times we seek collaboration when we're stuck. One of the things I did notice when we're talking about designers and peers, a lot of times if you engage them, they love to look at other people's work. It's just one of those things where they just love to see what people are doing in the industry, and so it almost gives them a high to look at your work and then make it an exchange. If they have something that they need feedback on, you're building the community, remember. And so if they have feedback on their work, say, hey, I'd be willing to take a look at some things you're working on in exchange if you can give me some feedback.